Use the Force, Luke.
Live long and prosper.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Shut up and take my money.
By Grabthar's hammer, what a saving.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
X never, ever marks the spot.
Winter is coming. You're a wizard, Harry.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey, old Kermit the Frog.
Bow ties are cool.
So say we all.
This is a Play on Nerds. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls of all ages, to A Play on Nerds, episode 207. I'm Steve.
And I'm Jarman.
And this week, as we gear up for the spookiest season of all, we're honoring a upcoming movie, Monster Summer, a Goonies-esque Halloween haunt with monsters, mayhem, and Mel Gibson for some reason.
He's a monster of himself, so there you go.
Yeah, that's right. Monsters, mayhem, and more monsters. So as we look for these coming-of-age, teenage angst, rampant fun time movies, we want to go back and honor a classic. So, Jarman, what movie are we going to be talking about this week?
Monster Squad.
That's right. The 1980s classic Monster Squad, featuring all the monsters you love for seemingly no reason. But we'll talk more about that later.
I've never seen before, strangely.
Wow, that is probably the most impressive fact to me.
So you had seen it before?
Yeah, oh yeah. Okay. This is one of those ones that was on TBS a lot, you know, like on those sort of things.
It was just totally off my radar. I didn't know it existed before last year, so it's weird.
But before we get into that spooky spectacular, Jarman, what have you been up to since last time we talked?
Well, I've been working a ton, catching up from after Dragon Con. It took me like 3 weeks to fully catch up, and I'm just now caught up on all my audiobooks and everything. But yesterday was one of those weird days I haven't had in a long time where just everything was going wrong. Preparing for a hurricane that's coming in literally tonight as we're recording, so my power might go out as we're recording this. But I was pulling everything in yesterday from the outside, like putting things on the porch and turning things over so they don't fly away, and pulling in plants and that kind of thing. And I'm going to throw away the trash, and I'm picking up this little adorable gnome that I have out front that is a beautiful direct decoration. That's my favorite decoration outside. I'm putting him underneath the bench just so he doesn't fly away. And as I'm putting him down, I see a bug flying towards my leg. So I just go to kick it away. And like literally as I'm kicking it, it stings me on the shin. And it was a wasp. And I haven't been stung by a wasp, a bee, or anything probably since I was a small child. Like I remember being traumatized in like Georgia, and my parents, like our family house out there, being stung once, and it was terrible. But it's been 25 years, maybe something more, 30 years, maybe. And it was so painful. And the funniest part, it's all caught on my Ring camera because I was right in front of the door. So you can see me putting the gnome down and then just screaming out obscenities. He's like, fuck. So I shut the video. I'll just show it to you too because it's hilarious. But
I'm glad it's been preserved.
Yeah, it's been preserved forever of me getting stung by a wasp. And I like rolled on like antihistamine stuff and like took a pill and everything, but it was fine. And I'm not allergic apparently, so that's good.
Hey,
but it just from that point on though, I was dropping things all day, running into things, and like the whole day was just like totally thrown off from that. So I don't know if you had a day like that before or recently, but you have kids, so probably, yeah.
Yeah, just they're stinging me and shit.
Like they do. But what are you up to, Steve?
We survived. We successfully launched iPhone.
And
yes. Watches. Got through a weekend of mayhem and organizing food and doing all sorts of nonsense. And then forgot to spend some time with the kids on Sunday. So we went to see a movie that looked agreeable to everyone involved. So we went and saw Transformers 1.
Former trailer review on the show. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm proud and happy to say that it was pretty darn good.
Nice.
It had a decent origin story with more world building than you would expect from a kid's film. Really high quality, some good voice work and voice performances, even though it was all celebrities and not actual voice actors.
Yeah.
Good comedy throughout. And so I would recommend it.
Nice.
Transformers 1.
A good all around family film.
Yeah. Good all around family film. Good origin story. If you like Transformers, you'll like it.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're just sort of getting back into the flow of things, getting kids at school and just trying to get geared up for fall.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were going to go to camp this weekend, but we got rained out. So
yes, a lot of rain going around these days.
Rain. You got rain. We got rain. God damn it.
Florida always has rain, but
your rain is murder rain though. So
right
it's
now
a little
it's murder.
different.
It's a Category 4 hurricane
Just
right now.
different.
That's ridiculous.
So I said murder rain.
There's just a nice howling wind outside at the moment. It's very relaxing.
Oh, it's like a fun spooky ghost.
It's spooky ghost that put on your house
For Halloween.
for Halloween.
Ooh. Well, does that take us to some nerdy news?
Yes.
It's time for Nerdy News.
I gotta really remember to change my glasses out when I do this so I can see the buttons far away because I'm getting old. I can't see it. So anyways, nerdy news. I'm talking today about AI Don't Know About That, which basically is an AI story. So the recent studies have shown that AI chatbots, this is actually very hopeful. The one good thing AI could do, AI chatbots can actually talk conspiracy theorists out of their wild beliefs. So they did multiple experiments with over 2,000 people. And they found if they told the chatbot, like, your goal is to convince this person not to believe these things anymore in a reasonable and pleasant way. They talk with these chatbots over a long period of time about their conspiracy theorist beliefs, and it weakened their beliefs and their conspiracy theories by 20%, which isn't a ton, but it's a lot better than regular conversations with regular people. And those effects, they checked back with them, lasted at least 2 months since those studies have been done. And they said the reasons they put towards this is that the chatbots can't be stumped. They have the entire internet's academic knowledge at their disposal. They won't lie, and they can honestly rebut any of the conspiracy theorist points in an effective way instantly. Like, they have a reaction to anything you have to say with actual facts, sources, and not bad sources, like good academic sources. And so it's just better than any human can actually talk to these people whose minds are so wrapped up in these things. And I feel for those people because a lot of them have just fallen into this because of loneliness or a sense of community they want to build with themselves. That's like what they found in the studies is people most susceptible to conspiracy theories are usually more lonely, more looking for community. And so they find like-minded people who believe in these strange things and just kind of delve further and further in rabbit holes. And it's really hard to get them out of it. But these chatbots are better at it than humans are, which is kind of cool.
As I was saying, with the internet, you can find 30 other people online who believe the exact same thing. That
of anything. Yeah.
Of anything.
Yeah, at this point.
I believe shoelaces are made of gummy worms. Well, there's a community for that.
And a kink for that probably too.
That's right.
So yeah, it's kind of a fascinating thing, but like it's one actual good use of AI chatbots. So there's not a lot of them, but it's pretty interesting. I like that. But I think that takes us to our main segment.
Monster Squad.
Pause for
Actually, I think it's the Monster Squad.
Is it the Monster Squad?
Was a television show.
Yes, I'll talk about that
the
later.
The Monster
too.
Squad. Yeah.
Well,
we start in old Transylvania 100 years ago, where a group of monster hunters have made their way to Dracula's castle to stop him from conducting a ritual involving a magic gem. Van Helsing has a young lady read an incantation in front of a glowing gem in German for some reason, which opens some sort of rift that sucks Van Helsing, the woman, and some other people through it. Back in the present /80s, two boys have been called to the principal's office because they are monster obsessed, and the principal scolds them about their obsession. And it turns out that they aren't super popular because of this, and a bunch of members of their clubs get bullied real hard. But thank God, a tough leather-clad badass named Rudy on a bicycle is their protector.
He smokes cigarettes
and puts the bullies in their place. While the other members walk home, a scary German guy watches the children through his window. More on him later. Rudy supposedly wants to join the Monster Squad, but first he has to pass the monster test. Then we cut to two pilots carrying freight when something bumps in the back of the plane. One goes back to check it out, and Dracula is there throwing crates and shit off of the plane, pushing them into a swamp below, and then flying away as a bat. Back at the clubhouse, Rudy takes the monster test, but is interrupted when Mom calls them for dinner. Turns out she found an old book for her son, and it turns out it's Van Helsing's diary, but it's written in German, so the kid can't read it. Back in the swamp where Dracula landed, he somehow already has a stylized vehicle there. And declares it has begun in like a really weird cut.
The black
Sean,
hearse
the main
with a
kid,
skull in the front. It's pretty cool.
yeah. Sean, the main kid, argues with his dad about seeing a new scary movie that coming out. We find out that his dad is a cop, and he gets a call down from a station where there's a guy claiming that he's a werewolf, and there's been some major theft. The man at the station is freaking out, and they have to shoot him. But then in the ambulance, he comes back with the full moon and transforms. He's actually a werewolf. Elsewhere, it turns out the major theft is a mummy that went missing from a local museum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the werewolf makes his way to the swamp, drawn there by the control of Dracula's power. The mummy shows up too, also for reasons. And then the creature from the Black Lagoon is there, and he does heavy lifting and hoists Frankenstein's crate from the water, thrusting it to land. They awaken Frankenstein, and then their boy band is complete. Sean avoids the fact that his parents are fighting again. There's this deep subplot through this about his parents going through a separation that is played out. And I've got an example later that blew my mind. He finds a name written on the family's whiteboard. Somebody that contacted Alucard. Yeah, Alucard. And he realizes when he rearranges it that it spells Dracula.
It's Dracula backwards, yeah.
That's right. Elsewhere, a little boy tells his father there's a monster in his closet. His dad comes in and makes a huge show of getting the monsters out, but he totally misses the actual real mummy in this child's closet. Sean tells the gang about all the strange happenings, that he has Van Helsing's diary, but he can't read it, and they get up their courage to go see the scary German guy. Well, Dracula has enlisted Frankenstein's monster to find the diary and kill the children if he needs to, so he can complete the ritual. And it turns out that the mean German guy is just a nice old man, and he gives the kids pie and Pepsi.
And a Holocaust survivor. They show that off on his little tattoo.
Yeah, that was a crazy moment. And he reads the diary for them. It turns out that every 100 years at midnight, a ceremony can open a hole into limbo itself, which can then absorb the monsters and suck them in to the void. It's happening in the next day, 100 years ago, like the dates line up.
Whoa.
Well, the boys make plans to combat the monsters. Sean's little sister, Phoebe, wants them to meet her new friend. It's Frankenstein's monster. The boys run for it, but Phoebe's not scared, and Dracula, and they all sort of make friends and take him up to the clubhouse. Dracula then creeps through the catacombs with the Wolfman. He breaks through a wall and finds the glowing gem. Just convenient. It was just there. We then get a montage of everybody preparing to face the monsters, with wooden stakes being made and melting silver spoons down to make bullets. It's really mostly that one kid who does all the work.
Yeah.
We get a cut back to the precinct where the police start to follow Dracula's trail and the weird trail of missing bodies. The Wolfman then escapes in human form, attempting to warn the police, but he transforms before he can warn them, and he just sounds like he's nuts anyway, so it doesn't matter. The boys source Patrick's sister, one of the kids, to ask if she's a virgin because she takes German and might be able to help them out, and they have to have a virgin read the thing. I love that for them, virgin only means girl.
I thought that was weird too. It's like, they're all virgins. Why can't
any
they do
of them
it?
are virgins? They could all read it, and then it would make the fact at the end that it was the little girl made it even weirder.
It was creepy. Yeah.
They extort her with nude photographs.
Also terrible.
So she agrees. Their kids make their assault on Dracula's mansion, with some going in and some coming to meet them. They get jumped by the Wolfman, but they kick him in the balls and run for it. They get cut off by the brides of Dracula and then by Dracula himself, and they find a secret lever and fall through a trap door into the basement. They find the gem, but Dracula attacks, and the fat kid uses a piece of pizza with garlic on it to burn Dracula. And that was a shame. The scary German guy picks them up in a Jeep and they flee for it. The mummy grabs hold, but cool Rudy uses a bow and arrow and unravels the mummy. The cops are on the case, almost hitting Dracula's car, who then drifts through them seamlessly.
Ghostly.
The cops face off against the monsters, firing helplessly at Dracula, who reveals that he's coming for their son. And this was crazy. So remember I mentioned this subplot? When the dad runs into the house and the mom is there, she's like, what's happening? What's happening? Her bags are packed and at the door.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I had to pause it. I went, oh my God, like that's nuts. They're playing out this subplot.
She was going to leave him.
Her shit is by the door. I'm not kidding. Watch it again. He has to go find their son. Well, the squad hits the town square, hoping to get to a church, but Dracula's brides are there waiting. Rudy faces off with them, firing arrows and stabbing one with a stake. Sean's dad shows up and slows down Dracula with a bullet while he's in bat form, which apparently makes him vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And he's about to blow him up with some dynamite he just has, luckily. And instead, the Wolfman attacks. He shoves the dynamite into the Wolfman's pants and kicks him out a window. Wolfman explodes into pieces. But he puts himself back together in a matter of moments. The cops try to stop the Wolfman, but he overpowers them. But Rudy steals a cop's gun and loads it with silver bullets, takes aim, and the man thanks him before dying. Well, it turns out the older sister isn't a virgin. The scary German man tries to teach the little girl Phoebe how to speak German. The creature from the Black Lagoon shows up, but he just gets shot in the chest and he's gone. I say just, but considering all these other guys are like supernatural and get up from being blown apart into pieces, Fishman went down like a punk.
Creature from Black Lagoon, just a regular guy with ugly skin. That's all.
Dracula arrives now in full force, disabling the old man and trying to steal the gem from the little girl. But Frankenstein's monster stops it and protects her and stops him, throwing him onto a spike nearby. The little girl finally recites the incantation. The portal to Limbo opens, and at the last minute, Dracula tries to grab Sean as he's being dragged into the portal. Sean stakes him, and Van Helsing is there to drag Dracula into the void. The bad monsters go in, but so does Frankenstein. Frankenstein shares like a sad final goodbye with Phoebe, who tosses him her teddy bear as he's being pulled into limbo. The portal closes. The military finally arrives in time to do nothing because the monster squad is there to celebrate their victory.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the Monster Squad. So, Jarman, you hadn't seen this before. What was your first impression of the Monster Squad? I
mean, it fell right into that category of these little kid, scrappy kid comedies that were in the 1980s Goonies, all that kind of stuff, and now Stranger Things is kind of
Goonies vibes.
Yeah,
so much Goonie vibes.
I don't even know, was this before Goonies or after Goonies? I don't even know.
I don't know. Let's take a look.
It was 87, I think, was this one. So Goonies might have been before
Goonies, 85.
So it was right after Goonies. Definitely riding the coattails.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I just happen to love the small detail that when they find out she's not a virgin, she's like, well, Steve doesn't count.
I heard that. I went, God damn it. There's in every major piece of media, television show, cartoon, whatever, there's always some off-screen asshole that is mentioned, and his name is always Steve. Over and over and over again.
Steve
I
doesn't
shit
count.
You not. I hear it everywhere.
That's really funny. I was happy the movie first started. The opening crawl, kind of like in Star Wars style, it says, talking about Van Helsing and giving the backstory of what's going on in this first scene. And it's like, they were going to kill all the monsters and send them back to Limbo, but they blew it. Like that. I thought, it's like, okay, it's setting the tone now for the rest of the movie. It's going to be silly.
Yeah. They failed.
Of course, you have to get past a lot of the homophobia in the beginning. Even our heroes are fat shaming their friend. Like, it's just like, it's kind of.
There are multiple times. I've got it written down in one of my reviews.
It's kind of rough, but
I have a whole section called Different Times.
Thankfully, it's all kind of front loaded in the beginning of the movie, and there's not much more of that, except for them continually not calling Horace by his name. They just call him the fat kid throughout the whole movie. That's like his name to them. But making fun of people on welfare for the German guy, I was like, Jesus, this is just so rough.
Probably just some old guy on welfare.
He lives in this giant house. I'm like, yeah, right, okay, that's welfare. But my general thoughts are just that it was fun. It was silly. A lot of things like you mentioned in the plot summary that are just like not explained. They don't make a lot of sense. They're very convenient, but it's just like, whatever. It's fine. It's a silly movie with kids fighting monsters. But yeah, what are some of your things that you liked about this flick?
So I thought there were some good practical creature effects.
I put that as well.
There was one right at the front where Dracula transformed the first time from being a bat, and his hand like transitioned.
Yeah,
and like that was just a great opening. Like, oh, okay, there might be some quality here. I think everyone was really successful with the exception of the Wolfman. I could not get over how sort of flat and round and hamsterish almost the face was.
It's weird because it's Stan Winston, who's like a legend of creature effects, and this is kind of early in his career. And they even mentioned that they modeled the Wolfman face off Stan Winston's face, the way the Wolfman's face.
Well, he must look like a gerbil.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it was a little gerbily. I can see
and
that.
then my favorite effect of the entire movie that was incredibly successful was when the mummy's on the back of the Jeep and they take one of his strands and tie it to the arrow, and the mummy unravels, and the movement and the way that the space physically displayed itself unraveling was just a brilliantly great effect.
It's pretty cool.
And it was super successful. To the point where that's the sort of effect that would hold up today in a movie.
Yeah, and there's just underneath the unraveling bandages, there was just dust or nothingness there. You just kind of
like that was just brilliant. So good music. It was done by a guy named Bruce Broughton. He's been a working composer. His list, his IMDb page is like 200 entries long. It's absolutely insane.
I never heard that name before either. Yeah,
with credits in Space Pirates, Hawaii Five-0. He did the music for The Rescuers Down Under. He did music for one episode of Jim Henson's Dinosaurs. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, Tiny Toons Adventures, Homeward Bound, Tombstone, and more recently the Orville.
Oh, very nice. I love the Orville.
So he's done so much stuff. It was absolutely crazy.
And I put the music that was not,
the quality was good.
The not composed music.
80s music.
The 80s music was also good too. And like there was even the song made just for the movie at the end with the credits talking about the Monster Squad. And it was really silly rap that they always did at the end of movies in the 80s and 90s.
So better music than the movie, not say deserved, but like it was high quality. It was well orchestrated.
Yeah,
it was clearly orchestrated to the movie. There was good self-awareness in the movie. Like they're up in the clubhouse doing their Monster Squad, and the one kid goes, "We have to help the dog get down." And the kid goes, "How does a dog get up here anyway?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is where it didn't make sense. And these like subplots that if you didn't catch them, it didn't matter, but it just added such depth. One of those was the Holocaust survivor aspect. You sure know a lot about monsters. And he's like, "I do."
And they show his
close
tattoo.
the door and you see it. But like kids wouldn't have context to what that was. So it would have passed them without a trace. But then the same thing with the parents fighting was like a very dark element, and them having like real marital issues and them showing these arguments.
Yeah.
And then as I said, the payoff where when the father comes home to look for the son, her shit is by the door.
And what's cool is that I was noticing
and you
how
missed it.
Yeah,
like, you know,
I missed it, but yeah, it's still cool little detail. And I realizing the fact that Shane Black, who wrote this movie, also wrote Lethal Weapon. And because I was thinking, I didn't know that while I was watching it, and the cop scenes with his partner at the cop were very sarcastic and funny and like just really snappy kind of police dialogue from the 80s. And that's like, oh, Shane Black wrote this. That makes sense. He did Lethal Weapon after this. And it's like, because that one cop, his partner, was just hilarious. And he was like, he hated his job, but he was just complaining all the time. Like these little details, like you said, that are small and not really important to the movie, but they make it a better movie than it would have been without them, you know, that kind of thing.
And, you know, Shane Black also did Predator. And a lot of that kind of stuff is also in Predator. Those little character moments for characters that not say don't matter, but they'll be dead soon.
But it makes it more interesting.
Right. Some downside for this, I wrote Different Times is the name of this whole section. They call the Horace a faggot on multiple occasions. That bully calls him that, like repeatedly for that matter. Smoking in the movie and indoors was like a wow, dated.
And like middle schoolers smoking.
Yeah, the kids smoking, rooting smoking is something that would never be shown now or seen now. Other things like the little boy the littlest boy, he's wearing a Civil War cap, but it's gray for the Confederacy.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, his little gray Civil War hat.
Wow.
And then at the end, Dracula screams at a little girl, "Give me the amulet, you bitch!" Like
To a little girl.
And that felt out of character. That felt like, well, we have one more curse to use.
Yeah.
Like, where are we going to use it? So there were some different times and some things in this movie that do not date well and just would not be in a film now.
And then peeping on the girl
things.
changing in the window, that was also part of that too.
But like those, I think of a movie like Gremlins, which is very capsulated in that it takes place in this idyllic set, very, very small, like location wise, relatively small. And so because of that, it's locked and it's sort of timeless. So there's a suspension of disbelief because there aren't these glaring, nutty things like that. So because of that, but every time you run to a movie that has that, it like kills that suspension of disbelief.
It's not timeless anymore. Yeah. Like I just watched that movie Waiting with Jolie because she hadn't seen it and I hadn't seen it in like 20 years. And,
I love Waiting.
And so I watched
it. Problematic as hell.
Now we're like, oh my God, there's some horrible shit in this movie. So it makes the movie, unfortunately, not timeless because of those things that are in there. But you're right, like Gremlins 2, they don't have things like that in there. So they kind of just, they work in any generation, you know, like, but
I will say, if you have not seen Waiting, I know it does not all carry well, but there is a scene where Ryan Reynolds has a very passive aggressive dinner with his mother. And it is one of my favorite scenes in any comedy movie ever. Ever. I highly recommend it.
There are a lot of funny moments in that, especially if you've ever been a server before. It's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, I also I put down like what audience this was supposed to be for because there was so much cursing and adult themes and then like, but also little kid stuff. So it's like, where are they trying to aim this for is a little confusing because Goonies, it's like a whole family can watch the Goonies. This one, not really, because there's some cursing and scary and blood and like, who is this for exactly?
Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, here's the thing. They used all this Universal IP, like all the monsters were Universal IP. So because of like the licensing surrounding that shit, you know that they had to go for a broader audience than kids.
Yeah.
Like they just had to make their buck on this sort of big of a film, especially because I would bet the budget did not go to big name actors. It went to big time special effects.
Yeah.
Because even the vortex effect looked pretty damn good.
It did. This holds
All
up.
the visuals were very well done. And so I think they were worried. They were probably worried if we make it too kiddie, we're not going to capture a big enough audience.
Right. Not for what we're going for. I also think Dracula was miscast. I think he was so much hinging on him that I don't think he was very good. He was too young.
In my opinion, he was the one actor they should have spent some money on.
Yeah, he's the main villain. Like, have somebody there more gravitas. He just kind of just didn't.
And I looked it up thinking that I recognized him from something else. And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I don't know him from anything else.
Yeah, it just didn't work for me. And also the Mummy and the Black Lagoon monster didn't get enough love. There was just a lot of emphasis on the Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Dracula, but they were kind of pushed to the side. They're like side characters almost. And it was unfortunate.
Well, I think that at least with the Wolfman, you had an easy out, we'll say, because he could turn back into a dude and you could know his motives.
I recognize that actor too, who played the Wolfman. He's been in stuff.
Yeah, he's been a working actor for years.
Yeah.
He's in White Lotus right now, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But the other two couldn't talk, and so it made the expansion of their characters limited.
It's a little tough. Yes, that's true. That's fair.
But that being said, that one effect, the creature in Black Lagoon, though he went out like a punk, looked great.
Oh, yeah.
Just looked great, had great physicality. And then the Mummy, that one effect makes the whole Mummy worth it. So I don't know. I can kind of forgive it.
That's very true.
But you're right. Dracula, they needed better.
Yeah. It's just too much hinged on him and he wasn't enough. I don't know.
Yeah. Duncan Rager.
Weird.
Best known for that and
nothing else.
He was on a podcast series called Trek Untold.
So maybe he had an episode of Star Trek somewhere. He's
in an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He's in 3 episodes.
Oh.
He plays somebody called Shakar.
I actually know that. Sounds familiar.
He was also in one of the Air Buds movies.
Deep Space Nine, Shakar. I'm looking it up now.
But I have no reason to recognize any.
Oh, he's a Bajoran dude.
Okay, there we go.
Cool.
Oh, and he's in an episode of TNG.
Oh, really?
He's in the episode. His character called Ronan in Sub Rosa.
Oh, it's one of the worst episodes.
That's like the worst one, right?
Oh
so
my
he's
God.
in that episode, so I can't wait.
Okay, we'll get to that eventually.
But yeah, you're right. I had too much hinged on him, and he did not deliver.
And I don't even think he was that bad as an actor, but just he didn't have gravitas. He wasn't old enough. I just think it was just a miscast. That's all.
Yeah,
but
I can agree with that. But overall, if you're looking for a fun, spooky holiday romp that might be okay for some levels of kids,
yeah, like middle school kids,
this is a perfectly good, acceptable movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It was better than I expected it to be. Some trivia for this flick. According to director Fred Decker, Shane Black's first draft of the screenplay was so huge that the opening of the film featured Van Helsing accompanied by zeppelins and hundreds of men on horseback storming Dracula's castle. Decker stated this sequence would have cost more than the final budget of the whole film. The scene where Dracula lifts Phoebe, the little girl, up and she screams was done in one take. Duncan Regehr wouldn't wear his red contacts or fangs around the 5-year-old girl because it scared her too much. So for the scene, the director told Ashley to scream once the platform raised her up. And she asked, when am I going to scream? And the director told her, oh, you'll know. And they proceeded to shoot. So the terrified scream you hear when Dracula opens his eyes and they're red is her genuine scream of fright. And they did it in one take, which is pretty kind of fun.
Wow.
Liam Neeson was paid for a bit part, but then it ended up never being shot. But he got to keep the money because they wasted his time and he didn't have to do anything. So he was going to be something in this movie. Liam Neeson. Due to licensing issues that Steven mentioned earlier, the crew had to create characters that were suggestive but not exact copies of Universal's iconic monsters. So they could use some of the names.
Do you think he was like one of Van Helsing's dudes? Now I'm thinking about who Liam Neeson could possibly.
I don't know, like a bit part of some sort, but just
bit part. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like locations they went for just a moment.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe a creepy janitor,
a store clerk, or
because he would have been young.
Yeah.
Young Liam Neeson's.
And from like what, the UK, right? So
he's Irish, yeah.
Not in this US movie.
That's weird. So they had the challenge was to suggest that these classic creatures without exact copying them, explained somebody who was not Shane Black, somebody else in the movie. Because we didn't have permission or the license to use a specific images, so we could do a gill man, for example, but it couldn't look too much like the creature from the Black Lagoon. It was frustrating for us at first because, of course, we wanted to do the original designs, but we couldn't. We could only suggest those designs. So the Frankenstein monster looks a bit like the Karloff creature, but instead of bolts in the neck, he had bolts in the forehead. There was a certain percentage of changes we had to make to get away from any legal copyright infringement, which is interesting. Here's another weird one. Dustin Diamond.
See, I liked that, though. I thought that it took the Universal monsters and like brought them into now. If anything, I think that had they been the exact Universal monsters, I would not have liked it as much.
It would have been more cheesy and less interesting, I think. Yeah, I agree. Especially Frankenstein. But Dustin Diamond, who is better known as Screech from Saved by the Bell, had a small role as a kid who tries to trade baseball cards with the boys, but it was later cut. So apparently it was filmed, but it was cut.
Oh, rest in peace, Dustin Diamond.
Did he die just recently?
Yeah, he had cancer, I think stomach cancer or something like that.
Mary Ellen Trainor, who plays the mother of the lead siblings, one who's getting the divorce, also plays the mother of the lead sibling children in The Goonies. So she played the mother in both movies. This movie is not based on or is a remake of Monster Squad 1976, the short-lived TV show that was about wax figures of 3 monsters that come to life to battle evil, which is weird they got around those copyright issues. But yeah, it's totally separate.
No problem with that shit.
Yeah. All right. So, Steve, I hear you got a bit for us.
Oh, boy, do I. Well, I'm going to call this bit Monster Mashup.
Monster Mashup.
So, oh no, I'm wrong. I just came up with it as I said. It's Monster Match.
Oh, well, there you go. Different. Totally. Fine.
There we go. I'm sorry. Until I said it out loud, I'm updating it right now. Monster Match. I'm going to name some classic horror villains And Jarman, you have to tell me in a fight which one of them would win and why.
All right.
Are you ready for the first one?
Let's do it.
Chucky from Child's Play and Ghostface from Scream.
I think that's pretty easy in my book because Chucky has a supernatural element to him and he can cause havoc and he can survive anything, whereas Ghostface is always just a human. It's just a human who's diabolical and evil and has a little revenge plan. So he could take him out. He wouldn't even be scared.
See, I don't know. I'm gonna think your Ghostface might play on you because in at least a couple of the movies, he's at least 2 or 3 guys.
That's partially true, yeah.
So I don't know.
They could have a plan, they could take him down. They are pretty smart when they make their plans, so they could.
So Chucky's your big winner on this one.
I think so, though. In general, I think Chucky would win.
All right, Hannibal Lecter versus Norman Bates.
Oh, so I think I'm going to go with Hannibal Lecter because Norman Bates is disturbed and isolated and the master of his domain. But Hannibal Lecter is smart and messed up. So he's a complete genius. So, but I will say there's a caveat there. If you put Hannibal Lecter in Norman Bates's motel where he is the master of his domain, I think Norman Bates would win. But if it's anywhere else and Norman Bates just on his own, Hannibal Lecter's got it.
I agree with that. I see a scenario in my head where Hannibal Lecter is staying at the Bates Motel and he rings the front desk and Norman comes and there's this exchange where it's like, I know you don't have any room service. Don't worry. I'll get a bite elsewhere. And he really underestimates Norman. And then that's when Norman stabs the shit out of him.
Yeah. He's like, oh, well, my mother can help you find some meat.
He would think he would think Norman is a victim instead of a predator.
Right. So he would win in his motel. He'd lose anywhere else.
So I need a definitive thing to put here.
That we're putting Hannibal Lecter. In general, Hannibal Lecter would win.
All right. Hannibal Lecter, the big winner there. All right. The Thing versus the Xenomorph from Alien.
Oh. So I almost think the Thing would win because the Thing can duplicate the appearance and physiology of anything else around it, right? It can take the shape and form and become the other beings. So it could become a xenomorph or become a predator or become something else and take on the xenomorph. But I don't know. I'm edging it on the side of the Thing. What about you?
See, my thought is xenomorph, and it's mostly because, so I don't know the physiology answer there. Because the xenomorphs have acid blood, I legit don't know if the Thing would be able to absorb them.
It wouldn't. You're right. Because when they do a DNA test in the humans in the Thing, it finds out that they're not really human. So I don't think it would actually get the blood of the xenomorph. It would just look like one.
So while I think that it could probably kill xenomorphs, I don't think it would be able to assimilate them.
I think you're right. The xenomorph would be more powerful, even if it changed into a form of a xenomorph.
Resilient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Xenomorph wins that one, I think.
All right. Yeah, if not for the acid blood, I would totally give it to the Thing.
You're right. It would have the claws, but it wouldn't have the acid blood.
All right. Candyman versus Pinhead.
Ooh.
Both tragic and tortured characters.
From what I've seen, I don't like body horror much, so I try to avoid the Hellraiser movies, but whereas I don't mind just some gore movies like slasher films. I think Pinhead is just kind of more powerful, got more things at its disposal with magic and torture devices and shit. And
he has a gang of other fucked up neophytes.
If they're brought into it, then yeah. I think just Pinhead, unfortunately, would win that one because I'd want Candyman to win, but I think Pinhead would win.
That's fair. All right. Leatherface or Jason Voorhees?
I think Jason Voorhees has the upper hand here because I don't think they've established that Leatherface is in any way supernatural. I think he's just he's a screwed up hillbilly. So I think,
but as we learned in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Voorhees is now basically made of magic lightning.
And he can go to space. He can
go to space. He's made of metal and stuff now.
Yeah, I think Jason Voorhees wins this one, hands down.
Okay. Let's assume it's not metal Jason Voorhees, though, because I feel like
that's
that
not fair.
short circuits everything. Okay. This one's a little trickier.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Myers versus 3 gremlins.
I think
one gremlin felt really disingenuous.
Yeah, I think 3 gremlins wins it. They're chaotic. They're fast. They can do random schemes. Whereas
one's just trying to get his fucking mask off the whole time.
Stop it. So I think 3 gremlins wins this one because they're just faster and smarter than he is.
All right. So now we've reduced a tier.
Okay.
Now we're gonna do some further.
Some
okay,
bracket.
So Chucky or Hannibal Lecter.
I think if children and families have been able to take on Chucky and win eventually, I think Hannibal Lecter could do it. I think he could figure out Chucky's games and he would take out Chucky. Chucky's not.
That's fair.
Yeah, he's dangerous, but like Hannibal Lecter's smart.
But Chucky's like manic versus calculating. Exactly. All right. The Xenomorph or 3 gremlins.
I think I'm giving that to the Xenomorph in that case.
Yeah, unless the gremlins can like screw with some rigging and drop something heavy, like unless they can pull off some Looney Tunes style shit.
Exactly.
I'm also going to give it to gremlins. Think about the nightmare that gremlins infected with like a face hugger.
Oh my God.
Would produce. Xenomorphs that could multiply with water.
Oh, jeez. We don't want to mess with that.
Giant freaky ears.
Mm-hmm.
I would watch that movie.
Yes.
All right. So Xenomorph.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the final round, Pinhead or Jason Voorhees.
I think Pinhead feeds off pain. Is like pain is pleasure to them. Jason Voorhees doesn't really seem to feel pain. So it would be kind of a good foil to them.
So Pinhead wouldn't necessarily have like an uncanny advantage.
Yeah, he wouldn't have an advantage. That's a pretty close one, actually. I think if it's just Pinhead, we're not saying his whole crew is involved.
Right.
I think Jason Voorhees might have the upper hand there because he loses that advantage of pain.
All right. So now for the final matchup, we're going into a 3-way.
Oh wow.
Triagon match. All right. Hannibal Lecter versus a Xenomorph versus Jason Voorhees. Who comes out on top?
So if I break it up a little bit, you have Xenomorph versus Jason first going there. I think, well, actually, if we keep them all 3, you could say Hannibal Lecter could be playing them against each other because he's so smart. And they're kind of both just mindless creatures almost. Xenomorphs have some smarts, but they're not like, you don't consider them geniuses. They're just kind of acting on instinct almost. He could play them against each other, but then he still have to face one of them and he would lose.
Right.
I think he would lose facing one of them one-on-one.
He would definitely lose facing either of them one-on-one.
I think the Xenomorph has the advantage over Jason then because Jason's kind of slow. He's got the one-trick pony kind of thing, and the Xenomorph could acid him or chop him in half. And then if you go against Hannibal Lecter versus Xenomorph, I don't think he's an older man. He's not got a lot of spry in his step. I don't know. That's those two. I think a Xenomorph still wins it.
Yeah, I agree. There's no chance Hannibal Lecter comes out on top here. There's not. Even if he somehow, but I think also he's at disadvantage because so much of Hannibal Lecter is scheming and mind games, and he can't play mind games with a Xenomorph or Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, you're right. He can't.
Just can't.
He uses your intelligence against you. Like they don't have
and neither of them have any, so it's not going to happen.
He's losing his advantage in this case.
I think Jason could take out the Xenomorph, but it would be like a mutual destruction sort of thing.
That's possible.
Like the Xenomorph has been throwing him around. They've been fighting. Finally, it's over top of him, and he just takes his machete and sticks it up through and cuts it, and it burns and just melts him. But the Xenomorph also dies.
But then also he can always come back to life because he comes back to life all the time
because of magic lightning or whatever.
Yeah, so maybe Jason wins everything.
Maybe. But I think that he could take Xenomorph, but I don't think they would both walk away. I don't think either would walk away.
So everyone loses?
I think that is the legit thing here. They both kill Hannibal Lecter.
Yep.
And then Jason takes the Xenomorph out.
Mm.
But also takes himself out.
Yeah.
So Jason has the moral victory, I think we would say.
The moral victory, yes. But we come out on top because they all die.
He's avenging those 3 gremlins.
Those 3 gremlins that deserve to win. Oh my gosh.
They tried so hard.
They tried so hard.
All right, well, that's Monster Match.
They all kill each other.
They all die.
I love it. I love it.
Does that take us some radical recommends?
It sure does.
I recommend.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
What do you recommend I do?
I recommend Pleasant.
All right. So this week I'm starting to, instead of playing video games in between working, like I take a 30-minute break or something like that, I'm catching up on old shows that I haven't finished in forever that I'm not watching with the wife. And in this case, it's the Walking Dead series. So I finished Walking Dead a long time ago, but now I'm finishing Fear the Walking Dead, which was kind of on and off okay. It was good sometimes, great sometimes, really boring other times. But this last season was actually really good. It wrapped up all the stories very well. I finished the last season and all the characters kind of get a really good send off and what they're going to do and good arcs that finish. So it really did come to a pretty good conclusion. So I do recommend if you were starting to watch it, go ahead and push on through, finish it out. And I just started something that was, I think, canceled or maybe was only going to be one season, was called Tales of the Walking Dead, which is an anthology show.
With the kids?
No, that one I never watched. It was like Planet Walking Dead or something like that. I never saw that one because it looked so crappy. It looked like Riverdale with Walking Dead. Did you watch that one at all?
No.
Okay, I didn't either. But this one I didn't know, hadn't really heard about, but it's called Tales of the Walking Dead. I think it's like 8 episodes, and each one is an anthology, so it's a different story of different people and different actors in each episode. And I only watched the first episode so far, but it was with Terry Crews and Olivia Munn were in it.
Okay.
And it was surprisingly really good, like heartfelt, interesting. It has the opportunity not to be as dark as the other shows, because that's why they're kind of hard for me to watch in succession, because they're so dark and depressing. But this one had like a little kind of interesting, fun tale in one episode. And the next episode I saw has the woman from, oh gosh, what's her name? Not Amanda Peet, but the other woman who's from all those Christopher Guest movies. Oh gosh.
Parker Posey?
Parker Posey. Yeah, she's in episode 2, but I haven't watched it yet. And I didn't know. Apparently, they're planning this movie for to tell the end story of Rick Grimes and what's her name? Michonne. And they already did the series for her. They did a mini series to finish it off, and it already aired back in February, and I haven't seen it yet. So that's something I'm looking forward to watching as well. But my recommendation is generally just, hey, give these last 2 things a shot, because they got Dead City, which came out, which is the story of Negan and what's her face going out to somewhere else to tell more story. Maggie. And then also there's Daryl Dixon's show, which also is on.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they're just planning to do one season of these things or if they're supposed to continue, but yeah, so I'm into it. I'm watching these spin-offs and they're doing pretty well.
It wouldn't be the first time that like a show spin-off only gets 1 season and then nothing.
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, that's much more the norm.
And I liked it better if they try to plan it that way. Just make it one set of stories you tell for one season.
Good encapsulated story.
Yeah, just tell like, where does that character end up? Let them have their own little season. Cool.
That's like Acolyte. Oh, never mind.
Oh, never mind. Yeah. But that's my recommendations this time around. And that takes us to some trailer reviews.
All right, this week's trailer reviews, they called it a teaser trailer, but it was like 3 minutes long, so I'm not sure if that qualifies.
That's what they are nowadays. It's weird.
The teaser trailer for the much anticipated Marvel project, the Thunderbolts, the culmination of multiple parts of what do they call it? Cycle 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
Bunch of villains and side characters, stuff from the TV shows, coming together to do a Suicide Squad style movie.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's good. I don't know what to say. Like they screwed up the most recent chapter of Marvel so bad that it's hard for me to imagine that this is going to be what pulls them out.
Yeah, you got the knockoff Captain America, the chick from the one movie who can mock or mimic any fighting style of anybody.
From Black Widow, which didn't even hit theaters. The point where Scarlett Johansson sued Disney. Someone brought up the fact that she is listed as an executive producer on this, and they think it's from her standing legal issues with them. Where basically, like, any movie from now on that has the Black Widow character in it, she has to be an exec producer.
Because that movie went in theaters. Black Widow was in theaters.
It did not. She sued Disney over profit sharing stuff.
No, I saw it in theaters. Like, it was in theaters.
Well, then it wasn't, but it was also released on Disney Plus.
Oh, that's what it was. I think she was pissed about the co-release thing. Yeah. Because she said
right. And so therefore theaters didn't see the boost that they should have. Right. Because of that, she didn't get her split of the profits.
And that was when they're still trying to figure out after COVID things like releasing movies in theaters and on Disney Plus at the same time. And also from that movie as well, you have the guy from Stranger Things playing the communist Captain America.
You've got the villain from the second Ant-Man film,
the ghost kind of person,
U.S. agent in there. And we know Red Hulk's going to be somewhere in here.
Apparently, you got Bucky. He's back again.
Bucky's there, who's presumably going to be like the moral compass of the group.
I guess.
I
think it looks too convoluted and cumbersome. And will people care about these characters? I don't think it's going to do very well, sadly. I don't know. I'm just not interested that much. I like that Elaine from Seinfeld's in it, but
yeah, true. So I'm going to give this one. Raul Julia is coming home from his long day at work. He pulls his Oldsmobile into the driveway and all right, just go inside and ignore it. And he gets out of his car and he closes the door. He walks up to the front door, turns the keys, opens it up, and directly inside of the door, Gary Busey has built an elevator. But not the shaft, just the little box. And he's standing there in that red outfit that the communist guy is in. And he goes, all right, now before you get mad. And Raul goes, nope. And he just closes the door and relocks it and goes back, gets in his car.
That's what people say to this movie. Nope.
Nope. Before you get mad.
We have my review for this movie is Disney has made a new film where it's going to be all the rejects from the other Disney Marvel films, but they're all played by Gary Busey.
Yeah, I'm bored
and
with
the
that.
title of the movie is Oops, All Buseys.
Oops, all Buseys. The title's just how do you spell that? Oh, that's 4 hours.
It's my own letter I made up. Oh, but that brings us to the end of episode 207 of A Play on Nerds. And join us next time where we'll be doing some Halloween fun with a classic anthology movie called Creepshow 3, honoring our rule of 3 here on A Play on Nerds. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's right. For Spooky Spectacular, we're bringing you Rule of 3, a movie that Stephen King said no thank you to.
But we say
and
yes,
I'm
please.
so excited. I'm so excited to get into it. Well, more of that next time in this month of spooky fun. Come on back for it and be our nerdy audience. We will come on back and be your nerdy co-hosts. Thanks again, Internet.
Stay nerdy, my friends. And spooky.
Thanks for listening to A Play on Nerds. Feel free to email feedback at aplayonnerds.com with all your questions or comments.
Shoot us a message on Facebook or Twitter and earn yourself a sweet shout out on the show.
Review us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so even more nerds can find us. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, we aren't picky.
Check out our entire back catalog and other offerings at aplayonnerds.com.
And how?